My kid's a millennial. What do I do? Great email. Let's talk about it. Roll it. Welcome back to another video. My name is Nikos Rentas. This is mentorsapproach.com. If this is your first time here, hit that like button if you like what you see, and of course hit the subscribe button to get your daily motivational idea to get you moving in the right direction. My kid's a millennial. I get this more often than I would ever have thought. Everybody's concerned. What am I going to do with my kid? What am I going to do with my child? They're not growing up. They're not figuring out what they want to do with their lives. They're not moving in the direction I want them to go. And yes, I made a video on expectations that we have for our children versus the expectations they have for themselves. And this is critical thought process to go through, as well as look at the environment we're in. Look where we are at now in 2018. It's 2018, guys. This isn't 1995. This is 2018. Hi, Nikos. I'm confused with my kid. He's an exemplar millennial. I love that. He doesn't know what he wants to do with life. I keep pushing him to look at university programs, but he just plays games. He just started grade 12. I am angry and at the same time scared of the future for him. And yeah, who wouldn't be scared? Like, fear's there. It has to be. You care, and when we care, we get scared. This is bottom line. And really, we got to look at this idea of what is going on. Our expectations of what we want for our kids will never be the same as what the kids want for themselves. And the reality is, most of us don't communicate with their kids on what they want. And this is the example I brought up in my last video about this, which you saw, which you're emailing me about now with your situation, because it's a little bit more particular. And yes, communication is critical, because if we're not communicating with our kids on what is occurring with their lives, where they're heading, like, we can't really understand what's going on in their heads. And when we don't understand what's happening, well, then we're making assumptions based on our expectations, and then we get frustrated with them, we start fighting with them, and then all of a sudden you're left going, what am I gonna do? Some parents give up, and they're like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna let them figure it out, and when it's time for them to need my help, I'll help them out, if it comes down to that. And you know, there's different ways to handle it as a parent. Most parents will look at that way of, hey, how can I help them, and keep trying, but the frustration, sometimes it's just overwhelming. So what do you do in this situation? Your kid plays a lot of games, is not doing good in school, you don't know where they're heading. Well, it's interesting that you say, hey, my kid's a millennial, exemplar millennial, and then the next thing is university, and you're thinking about this whole thing about school, and let me push him to go to university. And the question is, one, does he want to go to university? Two, for what to go to university? Three, what's wrong with college? What's wrong with trades? Four, what does he want? Like, what does he actually want? Has that conversation taken place? And how often has it taken place? So let's look at this from a perspective of the 2018. In 2018, comparison to 2010, comparison to 2000, comparison to 1990. We have seen this big switch. We've been where social media has come into play, but the internet changed everything. Now all of a sudden you have the internet. In the early 2000s, people started making money. We started seeing people start growing startups. Everybody started to move in a different direction, where school wasn't, it was a priority, but as we're getting through the last decade, it's not a priority anymore. And the reality is that there's a lot of people online making a lot of money without an education, and there's a lot who have an education, but they're not even in that field. They're in something else that they love to do, and they're making money online from it. And this is the harsh reality. We went through this big phase of schooling where everybody wanted to go to universities, and you couldn't cut university, you went to college, but at least you got some kind of skill set that you could make money off of. And the reality is that not everybody is meant for that. Then we have our trades, and for a while their trades were something that people were avoiding because school, go to university, go become an accountant, go become a doctor, go become a lawyer, go get into psychology, and then they went into the arts, they couldn't figure it out, they went back for another degree, got another nth amount of degrees. And I remember when I went to school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew my parents pushed me in math, computer science, math. I went for computer science. I hated it. And I didn't hate computer science, I hated math. I didn't want to do math. And looking back on it, it would have been better for me to go to other programs where I could have really done well, but instead I focused on that. I stayed in it, and I wasn't doing good in math, not because I don't get it, because I hate doing it. I hate sitting there trying to solve problems nonstop. So where's the psyche that we need to analyze there? Where's our psychology behind it? We have to ask ourselves, where's the future going, for one? And two, what does our child actually want? And in both cases, the scenarios are actually we should look at. In both cases, you can look at it from a perspective of both of them are I don't knows. On the other side, I don't know where the future is going to, and the child knows, hey, I want to go do this. And then on the other side, we know both ways what direction a specific field we want to get into is going. And this is the harsh reality. Research and going out and meeting actual people in the fields is the concrete way of understanding what direction to take. This is the bottom line. Because here's how it looks for your child, and you really got to understand what's going on. Social media has changed everything, okay? This phone has changed everything. And this is what happens when they go into the grade 11, grade 12 phase. They're sitting there going, what is everybody applying to? And you have the people going to university, people going to college, people going to trades. And then they're looking at the online world and they're going, look at all these people that are making money, I want to make money. And then you're seeing that, there are people that are making a lot of money and they're like, maybe I won't be that famous, but maybe I will. And then maybe I'll just do enough to, grow a YouTube channel, grow an Instagram, get something, do something online. I'll figure it out. Right now, my priority is what I'm doing right now because, hey, I'm living at home with my mom, so whatever. I will figure out how to make money down the road, and that's not my biggest concern. Now, if my mom pushes me enough or my dad pushes me enough, well, maybe I'll go for a program and I'll figure something out, okay? And this is, a standard. It comes back to some kids really know what they're doing and some don't, and then there's the in-between. The question then begs, where do they go from there when they're in school? Well, in school, there's 1-2 courses on careers, and then, the rest is the standard courses that you get. And, math, computers, physics, English, etc. How much is it in the actual fields in regular high schools? Like, how many courses are there in business? And on that, how many of them are going to go into the business side of things? And, hey, I want to go into business for marketing or this and that. And there's only one course in each aspect of that. So they're not really being exposed to the real world or to the world that exists out there. And then the teachers only know within their environment of the education field what actually exists. And when you go to the guidance counselors, well, where are they getting their information from? The universities, the colleges, the trades, what actually exists there? Where are you applying to? Let me get the information of what that program offers. And they're not really invested in the research of what exists out there. And this is why when I respond to people on this, and when I get on coach calls and when I talk to people on these situations, the idea is very simple. Go out and research, find people in those fields, figure out what you are looking to get into. What are the things that you don't want to do? Get them off the list. Then look at the things that you do want to do. So maybe there's 5 things on that list, and go find 5 people in those 5 different areas and ask them, what's the career like? What do you do when you go out there? What's the best path to where you got to? If you go on LinkedIn, as I've stated numerous times before, you'll see all these different paths people have taken through the path of becoming who they are. And it's a zigzag, it's never a straight line. Well, sometimes it is, and those people just lucked out, or they had connections, or whatever you want to use as a line, but they're few. And everybody else goes on these different wild zigzag roads. And at the end of the day, your kid has to figure something out, because it's them, not you, that are going to be living that life. And if you are forcing them to do something they don't want, A, they're not going to do good in it. B, they're going to start resenting you for it. C, if you get the opportunity to see them go through the first year, second year, and they go through those stages of, not caring and resenting, they may quit. And then after that, you owe money. And it was all for what? It was a waste. Thousands gone. So step one for me would always be, hey, let's communicate this. Let's figure out their expectation on life. Let's figure out where they are going in life. Start having the real conversations. Hey, you're gonna be 18 soon. 2 years is not far away. We need to figure out what direction you want to go into. You need to figure out how much it costs to live. You need to figure out what it takes to become an adult that lives a comfortable life. You have to have these conversations. What happens when you have the family? What happens when you start having 2-3 kids and you need to provide for them and you still need your needs and wants met? You go through this and you explain to them the scenarios that will exist where, hey, we're in 2018, and yes, social media might be out here, but the reality is here, and it costs way more money to buy a house than it did for me. And you're not going to be able to live in a house if you're making only this, working to do this. Let's look at all the opportunities that exist. And that's really what you need to focus on. Where are the opportunities? What have people done out there in the different fields that you can really work on as you start communicating and building new expectations together, so the expectations are on par and you can work together towards it. Once you start doing that, it will change the dynamics of the relationship you have with your son. And then all of a sudden, you will not be feeling in this, overwhelmed, discouraged sense of, craziness over why your son just sits there and plays games, but rather you'll have a conversation based on direction, and a purpose will start to be born for your son, where he's going to be looking at it going, you know what, yeah, I do want to go that route. I do want to go in that method of speaking direction. Work through it. Think about it logically. You can't help people who don't want to be helped. You have to encourage them to want to help themselves. How do you do that? By communicating, by really, really focusing on communication and that inspiration to want to do more. My name is Nikos Rentas. This is MentorsApproach.com. Hit that like button if you like what you see. Of course, hit the subscribe button to get your daily motivational idea to get you moving in the right direction. Of course, leave your comment, leave your story on the situation. What do you think is happening with our society and where it's moving? What's going to happen in the next 10 years? And what about these millennials? And where are they going with everything that they are seeing in life and the opportunities that exist in life, and how are they reacting to it? Because who knows, you might write a comment that somebody reads and you might help change our life.